There are neighborhoods where a black woman can exist without explanation. Westlake Village, California, was not one of them. Dr. Talia Monroe learned this the moment she pulled into the gated entrance of Sycamore Bend Estates. The guard didn't just scan her resident pass. He studied her face like he was memorizing it. Then he picked up his radio and said something she couldn't hear. His eyes never left her rearview mirror. She smiled politely, drove through, noted everything. Because that's what undercover FBI agents do. They watch the people who think they're the ones watching. Real quick, 87% of you aren't subscribed to Golden Stories yet. If this moves you, change that. Now, back to the story. Talia wasn't supposed to stand out. That was the entire point of Deep Cover. Officially, she was a bio-research consultant who worked odd hours and kept to herself. Unofficially, she was tracking a private security firm that had been running illegal surveillance operations across elite California communities, including this one. Her mission depended on invisibility. But in Westlake Village, a black woman was never truly invisible. From day one, she felt it. The stares that lingered 3 seconds too long, the neighbor who filmed her unloading groceries from her car, phone angled just enough to capture her face. When Talia glanced over, the woman didn't look away. She just kept recording. "Community safety," the woman said flatly, as if that explained everything. Talia didn't respond. She carried her bags inside, locked the door, and pulled up the neighborhood's private surveillance network on her encrypted laptop. 18 cameras, all pointed at common areas, except for one. Camera 11 had been repositioned, aimed directly at her driveway. She screenshotted it, sent it to her handler with no comment. Then came Richard Halden, HOA president, retired CEO. The kind of man who wore polo shirts like uniforms and spoke in questions designed to sound helpful, but weren't. He appeared at her door 3 separate times in the first 2 weeks. Each time, the same script. "Just checking. Do you have your resident ID card on you?" She did. She showed him. He smiled, nodded, and left. He never asked anyone else. Talia watched him through her window as he walked away. He stopped at the end of her driveway, pulled out his phone, and typed something. Then he glanced back at her house one more time before driving off. She made a mental note. Halden isn't suspicious. He's coordinating. The harassment escalated in small, careful ways. Her mail arrived opened. The guard at the gate began asking her to verify her address, even though her pass scanned green every single time. Twice she returned home to find orange parking violation stickers on her car, in her own driveway. When she called the HOA office, they apologized. "System error. We'll remove the fines." But the fines kept coming. 3 weeks into her assignment, Talia noticed something that made her blood run cold. Every time she left her house, a black SUV appeared in her rearview mirror within 90 seconds. Different routes, different times of day. Same vehicle. Not coincidence. Surveillance. One night, she stayed awake and watched through her bedroom window. At 2:47 a.m., the SUV rolled slowly past her house, the driver's window lowered. A camera flash lit up her front door. Then the SUV disappeared into the dark. Talia opened her laptop and accessed her HOA file through a back door she'd planted weeks earlier. Most of it was standard. Purchase records, move-in date, emergency contacts, but at the bottom, buried in the metadata, was a line that hadn't been there before. It was time-stamped from earlier that day, added manually. No explanation. Just 2 words in red text. Status, monitor. Talia closed the laptop, leaned back, and for the first time since arriving in Westlake Village, she realized something deeply unsettling. They weren't just watching her, they were hunting her. The package arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Talia heard it hit her porch. That familiar cardboard thud. She opened the door 30 seconds later. The box was there, but something was wrong. The tape had been sliced open, resealed, badly. She carried it inside and examined it under her kitchen light. Clean cut along the original seal. Someone had opened it, looked inside, then tried to make it seem untouched. Her order? A yoga mat and resistance bands. Nothing suspicious, nothing worth investigating, but they'd opened it anyway. She checked the gate logs on her phone. No visitors, no delivery exceptions. No one had been flagged entering or exiting the community during the delivery window, which meant only one thing: someone inside the gate had opened her package. Talia filed it away mentally. One data point, not enough to act on, but patterns don't lie, and this was just the beginning. 2 days later, the guard stopped her at the gate again. Same guy, same ritual. "Ma'am, I need to verify your address." Her pass had already scanned green. The gate was open. She could have driven through, but he stood in front of her car, waiting. Talia kept her voice calm, professional. "You scanned my pass. It's approved." He shifted his weight, glanced at his tablet, then said something that made her freeze. "Just following orders. Certain residents get extra checks." He said it quietly, almost apologetically, like he didn't make the rules but had to enforce them anyway. Talia didn't respond. She just stared at him until he stepped aside. As she drove past, she glanced in her rearview mirror. He was on his radio again, talking to someone, watching her car disappear down the street. Certain residents. She knew exactly what that meant, but the worst came 6 days later. Talia woke up early for a coded call with her FBI handler. She grabbed her keys, opened the front door, and stopped cold. All 4 of her tires were slashed. Not punctured. Slashed. Deep, deliberate cuts through the sidewalls. The kind of damage that required intention, effort, time. Her car sat in her own driveway, behind a locked gate, in a neighborhood with 18 security cameras. She pulled out her phone and immediately accessed the community's surveillance system through her FBI back door. She scrubbed backward through the footage. 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 a.m. Then she found it. 3:17 a.m. Her driveway. Clear angle. Except the feed wasn't clear. For exactly 8 minutes, from 3:14 to 3:22 a.m., the camera showed nothing but static. Gray noise. Then it clicked back on, sharp and clean, like nothing had happened. Her tires had been slashed during those 8 minutes. Talia walked to the guard station an hour later, stayed calm, asked to see the footage. The guard pulled it up, squinted at the screen, and shrugged. "Cameras glitch sometimes. Could have been a power surge." "All the other cameras worked fine," Talia said. He didn't look at her. "I'll file a report." He never did. That same afternoon, she received an email from the HOA. Subject: violation notice. Pool rules. She opened it, skimmed the text. Failure to comply with posted pool hours and guest policies may result in fines or suspension of amenities. Talia read it twice. She hadn't used the pool, not once. She hadn't even walked near it, but someone had put her name in the system anyway. She grabbed her laptop and logged into her encrypted FBI case file. Cross-referenced her address with the private security firm's server traffic, and there it was. Her home address had been flagged on a private watch list, the same illegal profiling system her investigation was built around. She wasn't just being harassed, she was a target. Talia opened a secure message window and typed 4 words to her handler. Red layer forming. Across town, Richard Halden sat in his home office. He opened an encrypted app on his phone. No name, no icon, just a black screen with a blinking cursor. He typed 1 sentence and hit send. The subject is active. Talia had been in Westlake Village for 23 days. 23 days of surveillance, coded messages, watching her back every time she left the house. Sleep came in 3-hour fragments. Her nerves were frayed. Her body was exhausted. She needed 1 afternoon. Just 1. Saturday morning, the California sun poured through her bedroom window. Warm, golden, relentless. For once, there were no encrypted emails waiting. No suspicious activity flagged. No black SUVs circling her block. Just silence. She made a decision. 1 hour. That's it. 1 hour by the pool. Talia changed into her navy swimsuit, tied her braids up, and grabbed a book she hadn't opened in weeks. She stepped into her backyard, felt the heat on her skin, and for the first time since moving in, she let herself breathe. The water was still. The air was quiet. Somewhere in the distance, a lawnmower hummed. She sat down on the lounge chair, set her phone on the side table, and removed her work earpiece. The tiny FBI-issued device she wore even in her sleep. For 60 seconds, Talia Monroe wasn't an undercover federal agent. She was just a woman trying to enjoy her own backyard. Then she looked up. Across the street, standing at the edge of his driveway, was Richard Halden. He wasn't moving, wasn't pretending to check his mail or water his lawn. He was just standing there, staring directly at her, phone pressed to his ear. Their eyes met. He didn't look away. Talia's stomach dropped. She watched as Halden's mouth moved, calm, deliberate, like he was describing something in detail. His free hand gestured toward her house. Then he turned slightly, angling his body away, but his eyes stayed locked on her for another 3 seconds. Then he walked inside. Talia's instincts screamed. She reached for her phone. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Should I call it in? No, not yet. Could be nothing. But it wasn't nothing. She knew that, because 2 minutes later, her dog started barking. Talia's German Shepherd, trained, disciplined, silent unless there was a reason, suddenly bolted to the side fence. Ears up, teeth bared. A low, guttural growl that made her freeze. She stood up slowly, listened. That's when she heard it. Footsteps. Heavy. Fast. Multiple people. Not on the sidewalk, not on the street. They were coming toward her yard. Her heartbeat spiked. She turned toward the pool gate, the only entrance to her backyard from the street. The latch lifted. Talia's breath caught. The gate swung open, and 3 sheriff's deputies stormed into her backyard. The first one had his hand on his holster. The second was already reaching for his cuffs. The third. His eyes locked on her like she was a threat. None of them knocked. None of them announced themselves. None of them asked her name. They just saw a black woman in a swimsuit standing in a backyard, and decided she didn't belong there. The lead officer barked, "Hands where we can see them!" Talia's mind went blank, then sharp, then cold. This is happening. She raised her hands slowly, palms open. No sudden movements. "I live here," she said, voice steady, controlled. "This is my house." The second officer stepped forward, cuffs already out. "Turn around, hands behind your back." "I'm telling you, I live here. My ID is inside the—" "Ma'am, stop talking and comply." Talia felt the panic rising in her chest, but she forced it down. She'd been trained for this. Stay calm. Don't escalate. Survive first. Correct later. But as the officer reached for her wrist, one thought cut through everything else. Richard Halden called this in. He told them I was trespassing. In my own home. The third officer's hand moved to his gun. He didn't draw it, but his fingers wrapped around the grip, and Talia realized in that suffocating moment just how badly this could end. "Get on the ground, now!" Talia didn't move fast enough. At least that's what they decided. The lead officer grabbed her shoulder and shoved her forward, hard. Her knees hit the concrete pool deck with a crack that sent pain shooting up her legs. "I said, get down!" Before she could process it, a hand slammed between her shoulder blades, forcing her chest flat against the ground. Her cheek pressed into the hot concrete. She tasted blood. Her lip had split when her face hit the surface. "Hands behind your back! Do it now!" She complied. She had no choice. Metal bit into her wrists as the cuffs locked tight. Too tight. The officer yanked her arms upward as he secured them, and Talia felt something pop in her shoulder. She gasped, tried to shift her weight to relieve the pressure. The officer's knee came down on her spine. "Don't you move. Don't you fing move." She couldn't breathe. The weight of him, easily 200 pounds, pressed down on her back, crushing her rib cage into the ground. She tried to pull in air, but it came in short, shallow gasps. Can't breathe. Should have thought about that before you broke into someone's house. This is my house. Resisting and providing false information, the second officer said flatly, typing something into his radio. You're making this worse for yourself. Talia turned her head as much as she could. Through the blur of pain and adrenaline, she saw them. Neighbors, standing on their driveways, watching from their windows. Phones out, recording. Not one of them said a word. Not one of them stepped forward. Richard Halden stood at the edge of his lawn, arms crossed, face twisted into something that almost looked like concern, but his eyes were calm, satisfied. He wasn't surprised by any of this, because he'd orchestrated it. The third officer crouched beside her, his boots inches from her face. He leaned in close, and she saw it. His hand resting on his gun, not drawn, not pointed, but ready. Listen to me very carefully, he said, voice low and cold. We got a call about a break-in. You match the description. You're in a backyard that doesn't belong to you. So, here's how this works. You stay still, you stay quiet, and maybe this doesn't get worse. You understand? Talia's mind raced. They think I'm a criminal. They think I'm dangerous. One wrong move and this ends with a bullet. She wanted to scream, wanted to tell them exactly who she was. But she'd been trained for this scenario. Never reveal your cover unless your life depends on it. Her life might depend on it. But if she blew her cover now, the entire investigation collapsed. Months of work, a corrupt security network spanning 6 counties, all of it, gone. So she did the only thing she could. She activated her emergency protocol. While her face was pressed into the concrete, while the officer's knee dug into her spine, Talia twisted her wrist just enough to press the inside of her forearm against the ground. A small, flat device, no bigger than a quarter, was embedded in her watch band. It looked like a fitness tracker. It wasn't. She pressed down, hard, held it for 3 seconds. A silent pulse transmitted. No sound, no light, nothing the officers could detect. But somewhere in Los Angeles, in a secure FBI field office, an alert flashed red on a tactical supervisor's screen. Agent in distress. Immediate response required. The officer above her shifted his weight, leaning closer. Any sudden move and this ends badly. You understand me? Talia nodded. Barely. Her vision started to blur. The pressure on her chest made it impossible to breathe deeply. She felt lightheaded. Her shoulder throbbed. Her wrists burned under the cuffs. And then, in the distance, she heard it. An engine. Loud, fast, getting closer. Tires screeching around the corner. The officers heard it too. One of them stood up, turned toward the street. A black SUV tore into the cul-de-sac, moving faster than any civilian vehicle should in a residential neighborhood. It skidded to a stop at the edge of Talia's driveway. The windshield flashed brilliant blue and red. FBI tactical lights. The SUV doors flew open before the vehicle even fully stopped. 2 men stepped out, both in tactical gear, both moving with the kind of precision that made the sheriff's deputies instinctively take a step back. But it was the third man who made everything stop. FBI Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Dutton, 6'3", broad-shouldered, face carved from stone in fury. He didn't announce himself, didn't flash a badge, didn't say a single word. He walked straight to Talia, still face down on the concrete, still handcuffed, still struggling to breathe, and dropped to one knee beside her. His hands went to the cuffs. "Get these off her now!" The lead officer blinked, confused. "Sir, we're in the middle of an arrest." Dutton didn't let him finish. He ripped a tactical key from his vest, unlocked the cuffs himself, and pulled them off Talia's wrists with a sharp metallic snap. Then he stood, turned, and shoved the lead officer backward so hard the man nearly fell. "You just assaulted a federal agent." The words hit like a flashbang. Silence. Total, suffocating. Silence. The 3 officers stood frozen. Faces pale, eyes wide, brains scrambling to process what they'd just heard. One of them stammered, "Wait. What? Who?" Dutton's voice cut through the air like a blade. Special Agent Talia Monroe, FBI Counterintelligence Division. You held a federal agent at gunpoint, in her own home." The second officer took an involuntary step backward. His hand dropped from his belt. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Talia slowly pushed herself up from the ground. Her shoulders screamed. Her wrists were raw and bleeding where the cuffs had cut into her skin, but she stood. And when she looked at the officers, her eyes were cold, calm, unforgiving. The lead officer's face drained of all color. We didn't know. We got a call." "You got a call," Dutton repeated, voice dripping with contempt. "And instead of verifying, instead of asking for ID, instead of doing your job, you stormed into her yard, threw her to the ground, and put a knee on her spine." He took a step closer. "You pointed a weapon at a federal agent conducting an active investigation." The third officer, the one who'd rested his hand on his gun, looked like he might be sick. From across the yard, Richard Halden appeared, hands up, voice shaking. "I didn't know. I swear I was just trying to protect the neighborhood. I thought—" Dutton turned to him, and the temperature dropped 10 degrees. "Richard Halden." Halden froze mid-step. Dutton pulled a folded document from his vest and held it up. "We've been monitoring your communications for 3 weeks. Encrypted messaging apps. Coordination with a private security contractor engaged in illegal surveillance and racial profiling operations." Halden's hands started trembling. "I don't know what you're talking about. You flagged Agent Monroe's address on a private watch list. You accessed her HOA file without authorization. You coordinated surveillance. And today, you called in a false report to law enforcement, knowing it would result in exactly this." Dutton stepped forward. 2 FBI agents moved in behind him. "Richard Halden, you're under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and civil rights violations." "Wait. No, this is a misunderstanding." The agents didn't wait. They cuffed him, read him his rights. Halden's voice cracked as he tried to explain, tried to justify, tried to make it sound reasonable, but no one was listening anymore. Across the street, neighbors who had been filming, who had watched Talia get slammed to the ground and done nothing, now stood silent. Phones lowered, faces pale. One of the sheriff's deputies tried to speak. "Sir, we were just responding to a call." Dutton's eyes locked onto him. "You'll be hearing from Internal Affairs. And from the FBI's Civil Rights Division. All 3 of you." He turned back to Talia. "Agent Monroe, are you hurt?" She touched her split lip, rolled her shoulder, felt the bruises already forming on her ribs. "I'll live." Dutton nodded, then leaned close and said quietly, so only she could hear, "We got everything. The servers, the watch lists, all of it." Talia allowed herself the smallest smile. "Good." The raid happened at dawn. 6 FBI vehicles surrounded the offices of Sentinel Point Security. The private firm contracted across Westlake Village and 11 other elite California communities. Agents poured through the doors with warrants, seized servers, disconnected hard drives. Photographed whiteboards covered in resident names, addresses, and color-coded threat levels. And buried in the system, they found it. The watch list. Over 400 names. Flagged. Categorized. Monitored without consent. The criteria? Unspoken but obvious. Race. Ethnicity. Cultural fit. Talia's name was entry number 73. Status, high priority monitor. By 9 a.m., the story broke. FBI uncovers illegal racial profiling network in wealthy California communities. By noon, it was national news. The 3 sheriff's deputies were placed on immediate administrative leave, pending investigation, pending federal civil rights violation charges. Their names, their faces, their body camera footage, all of it released to the public. The video showed everything. Talia on the ground, knee on her back, blood on her lip, her voice, barely audible, "I can't breathe." The officer's response, "Should have thought about that before you broke into someone's house." Except it was her house, and she was FBI. The backlash was immediate, brutal, inescapable. Within 72 hours, the Westlake Village HOA called an emergency meeting. Federal subpoenas were issued. Board members lawyered up. 3 resigned before the week ended. Richard Halden's face was everywhere. Mugshot, perp walk, arraignment. Charged with conspiracy to violate civil rights, obstruction of justice, witness intimidation. His bail was set at $500,000. He posted it. But when he returned to Westlake Village, his neighbors wouldn't look at him. The same people who'd nodded along when he complained about suspicious activity now crossed the street to avoid him. Funny how quickly solidarity evaporates when the cameras turn around. Talia stayed in Westlake Village for 6 more days. Long enough to pack. Long enough to debrief. Long enough to let the bruises on her wrists fade from black to yellow. On her last morning, she stood in her kitchen, boxing up the last of her belongings, when she heard a knock at the door. She opened it. An older couple stood on her porch. The Hendersons. White, late 60s. They lived 4 houses down. The woman's eyes were red. The man stared at his shoes. "We just wanted to say..." The woman's voice cracked. "We're sorry." Talia said nothing. "We saw everything," the man added quietly. "That day, when they hurt you, we saw it, and we didn't do anything." The woman wiped her eyes. "We should have said something, should have stepped in, should have told them you lived here." Talia looked at them for a long moment. She wanted to be angry. Part of her was. But another part, the part that had spent her entire career navigating systems designed to overlook her, just felt tired. "You saw it," Talia said quietly. "And you did nothing." The man nodded, ashamed. "We know, and we'll have to live with that." Talia didn't respond. She just closed the door. Some apologies come too late. That afternoon, Talia walked through her backyard one last time. The pool was still. The gate, the same gate 3 officers had stormed through, stood open, swaying slightly in the breeze. She walked to it, placed her hand on the latch. For a moment, she just stood there, remembering. The weight of the knee on her back, the bite of the cuffs, the feeling of concrete against her face. The helplessness, the rage. Then she pulled the gate closed, locked it, and walked away. Her car was packed, her bags were loaded, her mission was complete. As she pulled out of Sycamore Bend Estates for the last time, she passed Richard Halden's house. He was standing in his driveway, alone, watching her leave. Their eyes met through the windshield. Talia didn't smile, didn't wave, didn't acknowledge him at all. She just drove past. Because some people only see the truth when it's standing in handcuffs in front of them, and by then, it's too late to pretend they didn't know. Talia Monroe disappeared into the California morning, but the case she built, that would live forever. If you're not subscribed yet, join this community. We share a new story every week that'll restore your faith in humanity. And please, drop a comment sharing a time when a stranger's kindness changed your life. I want to hear your stories too. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.